It's hard to argue that he is not the biggest movie star in the world. Adored, legendary, controversial, Tom Cruise has been everything in the span of his long career. He is the ultimate action star and has one of the most remarkable filmographies in the history of American cinema. But his aura has been tarnished by his personal life, and especially by his involvement in the very polemic Church of Scientology. The star has become a strong advocate for the organization, and his private life is surrounded in mystery. What is his real relationship to the church? Why did he break up with Nicole Kidman? What was his marriage with Katie Holmes all about? Tom Cruise's life is as unexpected and exciting as his movies. Let's explore its secrets. Thomas Cruise Mapplethorpe IV, that's his full name, was born in 1962. His mother was an amateur actress and teacher, and his father an electrical engineer. Because of his dad's career, the Cruise family moved a lot, and Tom wasn't able to settle anywhere and lead a normal life. His childhood was scarred by poverty and his father's abusive behavior. Cruise later described him as a merchant of chaos who beat his children. He was the kind of person where, if something goes wrong, they kick you. It was a great lesson in my life, how he'd lull you in, make you feel safe, and then bang. For me, it was like, there's something wrong with this guy. Don't trust him. Be careful around him.
He didn't have a very good male role model when he was growing up, and has sort of become a chameleon, as he always had to change personalities and change into these different schools. But he did remain close with his mother and his sisters as he grew up.
But it's also thanks to his dad that Cruise discovered what would become the passion of a lifetime: cinema. I was 7 when my dad took me to the movies to see 2001. The theater was full, and I had to sit on my dad's shoulders. I didn't get everything, but I was very moved.
When I was a kid, and I would go to the movies were very, very important to me. You know, when I looked at those characters, on the screen, they weren't. It wasn't a movie to me. They were very real, and I'd bring those characters home with me, and I'd think about their lives and where they were, and I'd dream about that. And I love movies so much.
To this day, Cruise claims that spending a day without watching a movie is impossible for him. His mother eventually divorced when Tom was 11 and took her kids away from their dad. She remarried and was able to offer solace to her family. Like his mothers and sisters, he suffered from dyslexia, making school very difficult for him. But at the time, he had a surprising career plan: becoming a priest. He always had an interest for spirituality and religion. He was raised in a very religious family and would keep seeking spiritual elevation throughout his entire life.
He did go to a seminary school for a year when he was 13 or 14 years old. And according to his classmates and contemporaries at that time, he was a very devout Catholic. I would attend Mass and go to prayer regularly, and at that point had been interested in the priesthood. And he has in the past said that he was. So that may have been the case, it may have changed, but he was a very devout Catholic at one point in his life.
But he finally changed his mind and turned to other passions. He got disappointing grades in high school, but was excellent at sports. He even considered pursuing a career in wrestling before a bad knee injury stopped his plan. That's when he turned to acting.
He had been acting since he was a kid, and he was always in drama when he was in these different schools. And when he enrolled in high school, he really sort of took to the stage and really bloomed in that area.
In his senior year, he starred in a school production of a play and decided to commit fully to his acting career. He set a 10-year deadline to build his career and moved to New York.
One of his first roles was in a movie with Sean Penn, who is another very intense actor, and he took on a lot of his methods, including only addressing his co-stars by their character name. And so he just became known as this very sort of intense, serious guy pretty much right away. From that, he was spotted by Francis Ford Coppola, who he worked with later, and his second film was The Outsiders, which is another sort of really intense drama. So he even started his career with these very serious roles that sort of showed his range as a dramatic actor. That's even before he moved into any of these sort of action films. So I think he always was seen as someone who did have the acting chops to sort of back up that $1 million smile that he is now famous for.
Cruise's career was launched and would never slow down. He soon had his first leading role in Risky Business, his first commercial success. He was now a star and would, during the entire 1980s, spread his influence in Hollywood. But it was in 1986 that he definitely became one of the biggest stars in the world with Top Gun. He had it all. In only 6 years, he had developed his acting career and was smoothly transitioning from big blockbusters to great dramas with important directors. With Rain Man and Born on the 4th of July, he definitively became one of the greatest actors of his generation.
Oliver Stone had called me. I've been a huge fan of his, and he talked to me about Born on the 4th of July and that he was going to give me the script. And he said, it's a tough film, nobody's going to want to make it, and you know, just read it and see what you think. And I read it and was absolutely blown away, to say the least. And now, you know, we've got 8 Academy Award nominations. It's tremendous.
Yeah, I don't think you can sort of underestimate what Born on the 4th of July did for his career and sort of what it meant to the country at that time when it came out. It's a shame that he didn't win though, and obviously like he's been he's been nominated 3 times now, always when he was in a very dramatic role, and just sort of, you know, hasn't made it. But if anything, that should have been the one probably that he won for.
His professional life has made Tom Cruise one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood, but his personal life also evolved remarkably during the 80s. In 1987, Cruise settled for the first time and married actress Mimi Rogers. This union would end up having a decisive impact on the actor's life, since Rogers was the one who introduced him to Scientology. Mimi Rogers helped the actor become a student of Scientology. What is Scientology? It's a church founded by science fiction writer L. Ron Hubbard.
Scientology is basically a level of courses that you go through to sort of get to this, what they call state of being clear, which is emotionally being able to shed the things that are holding you back. But for many people, they do become trapped in the church for years because the courses cost $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 to go up these levels. A lot of people that have defected from the church have talked about what the teachings are, and the teachings of that are that there was a god named Xenu from another planet 75,000 years ago who sent these aliens to Earth, and they were living in volcanoes on Earth. The volcanoes were then hit by hydrogen bombs, and all the aliens died, but their spirits are still living on Earth, and their reincarnated spirits will attach themselves to human bodies, and those are the emotions that you feel yourself being held down by. And so once you get to these upper levels through the courses, you're able to free those spirits from your body and free yourself from the emotions that are holding you back.
Cruise began reading Hubbard's book, Dianetics, and he went through the process of auditing sessions.
To explain it, it's sort of like a cross between maybe Catholic confession and taking a lie detector test, because they use these machines they call the e-meter that you put your hands onto, and you're supposed to sort of like read your emotions as you're talking about these stories. And you usually have a person that is interrogating you and asking you a series of more intense questions to sort of be able to track your emotions. Tom has since said that because he was diagnosed as dyslexic back in the 70s and 80s, there weren't programs in schools and they didn't really have any ways to treat this effectively. So he grew up thinking that he was an idiot and thinking that there was something wrong with him, which was very hard for him. And when he got into the church, he went through this tech, and he said that as soon as he learned how to read through Scientology, like, he was cured. And so I think that that was very emotional for him and sort of pulled him in very, very quickly into the church and its teachings.
His star status, since the actor just came out of Top Gun and Rain Man, made him progress very quickly within the church, and he soon became one of its leading proponents. But his new faith didn't keep him from pursuing his successful career. He joined forces with Tony Scott, the director of Top Gun, for a new summer blockbuster, Days of Thunder. The team was looking for an actress to play the female lead of the movie, a neurosurgeon. Against all odds, a 23-year-old Australian actress was chosen, Nicole Kidman. It was rumored that Cruise, who had seen her in a small movie, insisted on her getting the part. The two lead actors had a real chemistry.
And then they very quickly started a romance, I guess, a friendship that was very intense and turned into a romance very quickly while he was still married to Mimi.
After his divorce with Rogers, the new couple married on Christmas Eve, 1990. It was the beginning of a new, prosperous era for Cruise. In the 90s, Tom Cruise was unstoppable. He and Kidman were the most glamorous couple in Hollywood, and both their careers skyrocketed at the time.
We were nominated.
He had many successes and critically praised movies, such as A Few Good Men, Interview with a Vampire, and Jerry Maguire. And Kidman became widely regarded as one of the best actresses of her generation. In 1996, Tom Cruise made one of the smartest moves of his entire career and produced a movie adaptation of the TV show Mission Impossible. He hired Brian De Palma to direct the first installment of what would become a very successful saga. Cruise had created for himself a series of action films he was totally in charge of. His love for entertainment and his passion for control led to this perfect vehicle for the actor.
To be the employee or the boss, each one has its challenges, but I enjoyed producing this movie. Do I want to do it again?
Yeah.
Yes.
He was developing two careers, one as an action film hero specialized in crazy stunts and technical challenges, the other as an ambitious actor shooting intense dramas with the best directors on earth. On the personal side, the couple adopted two children, Isabella and Connor. Everything should have been peaceful, but for much of the 1990s, Cruise and Kidman had to face attacks regarding the legitimacy of their marriage and rumors regarding Tom Cruise's alleged homosexuality.
It's kind of a sad case, but I think the rumor started because he was not able to have kids. So it was like, well, he must be gay, like there was this thing. Although there's really no evidence for it.
They filed two different lawsuits against tabloid publications. In each case, the couple received a published retraction and apology, along with a large monetary settlement, which they donated to charity.
I think the fact that he responded to it that way, and the case was so big that sort of was like, well, maybe there's fuel to the fire.
Putting that negativity behind them, the couple accepted, in the late 90s, the proposition of a lifetime. Stanley Kubrick hired them to play in his last movie, Eyes Wide Shut. One of Cruise's lifelong dreams, working with Kubrick, became a reality. The couple moved to London to make the film, and because of Kubrick's perfectionism, the shoot, initially planned for 12 weeks, lasted 2 years.
And I think that just shows that he was really dedicated to working with the greats and doing new and experimental things. But obviously, working with Kubrick isn't easy and was very intense for him and for Nicole on the set.
Cruise pushed himself like never before and even developed an ulcer during the shoot. The movie was released in 1999 and is now widely considered as Cruise's best film. The movie was also a challenge for the couple. They had to face even more rumors about their intimate life. A tabloid had even pretended they couldn't perform their sex scenes in the movie and had to hire a sexologist, even though they don't share any sex scenes in the movie. But in February 2001, Cruise and Kidman announced their separation after 11 years of marriage. The couple cited the difficulties involved with two acting careers and the amount of time spent apart while working.
When they split up, Cruise very cryptically said at one point, Nicole knows what she did, but no one ever explained it, and so there were sort of rumors about infidelity or this or that, but no one really has any idea.
But once again, many rumors described their divorce as a result of Cruise's involvement in Scientology. Kidman partly confirmed those assumptions by saying she didn't want her children raised as Scientologists. But even darker rumors appeared, saying that Scientology facilitated their divorce because of Kidman's lack of engagement in the church.
Later, again, people that defected from the church and spoke out in a documentary called Glowing Clear said that they were working behind the scenes to sort of break them up. After they were married, Tom had sort of not separated himself from the church. He certainly didn't say anything about leaving the church, but he was pulling away, not as present. What these people who have left the church said is that they were working behind the scenes to break them up because they wanted to pull him back into the church. But, eventually, I guess it worked, or, we don't know exactly what happened, but it's understood that it was sort of a wedge that was driven between them by the church because Nicole was never really 100% on board.
The 2000s started well for the star. After his divorce, Cruise dated his Vanilla Sky co-star Penelope Cruz for a few years.
At that point, after he had broken up with Nicole, I think he, with his two kids, they were drawn back into the church and were very, very heavily involved in it. And Penelope and him had co-starred in Vanilla Sky, but she was never considered acceptable by the church and didn't stick around for very long.
In the meantime, he was making some classics, such as Minority Report with Steven Spielberg, Collateral with Michael Mann, and War of the Worlds with Spielberg again. But by the middle of the decade, his public image would start to change for the worse. In January 2004, Cruise made a controversial statement saying, "I think psychiatry should be outlawed."
He was doing promotion for War of the Worlds, or at least he was supposed to be doing promotion for War of the Worlds, but it sort of became about Tom and his opposition to psychiatry. He doesn't believe in it, and he doesn't believe that there should be any sort of medical treatment for any mental problems because they can all be solved through the teachings of the church.
Cruise also became a militant spokesman for Scientology and began campaigning in Europe in order to help the church be recognized as a religion. He lobbied officials in France and Germany, raising high criticism worldwide.
He just really became sort of an evangelist for the church in this period of time. He's so esteemed within the church that he's really sort of their international figurehead.
But maybe the strangest element of Cruise's life by 2005 was in a new relationship to actress Katie Holmes. In June 2005, after a 2-month courtship, Cruise proposed to Holmes in a restaurant at the top of the Eiffel Tower.
You know, all of a sudden, they were dating. They showed up on a red carpet all over each other within like a week. They were making incredibly excessive PDAs across the world.
In October, they announced that they were expecting their first child together. The hasty proposal and surprise pregnancy quickly became tabloid gossip. And his best man at the wedding was none other than David Miscavige, the leader of the Church of Scientology.
And his relationship with David Miscavige, as you know, again, people who have defected from the church have said, was incredibly intense. His life at that point was completely arranged by David, who was supposed to be his best friend. And they would do these really manly things together, like go riding motorcycles and go out and sort of, you know, have this dream life that David made possible. And so I think that he was sort of so far really pulled into that he couldn't see anything outside of it.
And as always, crazy rumors had been heard about Scientology auditing potential girlfriends for Cruise after his breakup with Penelope Cruz.
These have come out later, and also I can say that at the time, even then, it was sort of the rumor around Hollywood that they were calling people in as sort of like casting calls to date him because he was, you know, the #1 superstar in the world at that point, and sort of was looking for a younger actress to come in and be his partner. The rumor has always been that they went through that process, and the one who won was Katie Holmes.
Seeing that you are learning more about Scientology, can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'm excited about it, and I feel like
Have you read maybe any of his books at all?
yeah, I've read a few, listened to a couple of tapes, and I feel like it's making me a better person.
But the decisive moment when the public opinion switched and stopped regarding Tom Cruise as a well-beloved hero was perhaps his infamous appearance on the Oprah Winfrey Show.
I think every person has probably seen a video of that and what happened. Had just started this romance with Katie Holmes, and he was on the set of Oprah, supposed to be promoting this film, but he talked about the romance. He jumped on the couch, he was screaming, he was doing these fist pumps. He ended up going backstage and pulling Katie out and like kissing her all over. It was like everything about it was just so weird and inappropriate. And even Oprah Winfrey, who is, you know, a very composed woman, and she was just like, "What is wrong with you?" I mean, it just sort of made him a laughingstock.
Those personal bad bets were followed by some professional downturns as well. In 2006, Paramount Pictures announced it was ending its 14-year relationship with Cruise. A chairman from the company cited the economic damage to Cruise's value as an actor and producer from his controversial public behavior and views. But some industry analysts commented that the real reason for the split was most likely Paramount's discontent over Cruise's exceptionally large share of DVD sales from the Mission Impossible franchise. Whatever the truth might be, the unstoppable star faced difficulties for the first time. But it didn't keep him from releasing a third and successful Mission Impossible movie. He also welcomed his daughter Suri in 2006. Seeing the negative impact his religion and behavior had on his career and legacy, Cruise has drastically changed his public relations strategy. Since his Oprah incident, the star has been much more secretive about Scientology and his private life in general.
You know, he is an amazing actor, but he is, you know, at the core also a businessman, and he didn't want his business and the business of Tom Cruise to sort of be punished by his behavior.
On the big screen, he has shown how smart he is by playing with his own image in the comedy Tropic Thunder. Cursing and putting on a fat suit proved to be the best way to win the audience back.
He seemed to make fun of himself and also just to genuinely be having a good time. So it helped restore his reputation in that it was sort of like, you know, hey, he's still a fun guy. He's still a good guy. He's not the intense, crazy person that he's been.
It even earned him a Golden Globe nomination. In 2011, he even managed to release the biggest success of his career to that point, Mission Impossible: Ghost Protocol.
I love making these movies. It's, you know, because of all of that, because it is such a challenge.
Critics praised the action movie, and Cruise was back in style. But on a personal level, things were not getting better. Only 5 years after their marriage, Cruise was shocked to learn Katie Holmes wanted a divorce.
The rumor had always also been that they had signed this sort of deal, that it was going to be 5 years that she would be married to him, or at least 5 years kind of thing. Well, I mean, as soon as they hit their 5-year anniversary, she, you know, hit him with the divorce papers. And the story is that, you know, they had been seen together just a couple weeks before. She was still playing up the marriage and that they were happy and this and that. As soon as he flew off to Iceland for a film shoot, she called him up, said we're getting divorced, changed her phone number, changed everything, and never spoke to him again. When he was married to Mimi Rogers, he left her because he had started this relationship with Nicole. When he was married to Nicole, he left her. You know, she had been very young when they married. He left her, he took the kids, he controlled that situation. And this was really the first time that anyone stood up against him, and she won. You know, she was pretty smart in the way she did it.
In the midst of his divorce, Cruise filed a lawsuit against In Touch and Life and Style magazine for defamation after they claimed Cruise had, quote, abandoned his 6-year-old daughter. During deposition, Cruise testified that due to his workload, 110 days had passed without him seeing her. But apparently, his relationship to his daughter didn't get better with time.
He saw her a couple of times, they did photos together, and then as far as we know, he hasn't seen her, and they don't have a relationship. And that is, again, because of the church, and that's because the church sees Katie as a suppressive person, and therefore Suri is as well.
He focused on his career more than ever, building back his image. His movie career in the 2010s seemed less adventurous and versatile. He focused on movies he had also produced that were mostly big action films in which he can display his love for physical acting and stunts. Tom Cruise became synonymous with action.
And these are the kinds of roles that he's really beloved for. You know, people were willing to accept him sort of as this hero, action hero. The films are brilliant, exciting, well done, everything that people love. You know, he's a good businessman. He instinctually knew, like, okay, this is sort of where I have to go back to. And he managed to do that with these action roles.
His drama years seemed far behind. He created a new action franchise, Jack Reacher, and pursued the Mission Impossible saga with Rogue Nation and with Fallout in 2018. The movies were more popular than ever, and Cruise in better shape than ever at over 50 years old. But even if he was still silent on the subject, his link to Scientology was just as strong.
I mean, at this point, he's now moved to Florida, and he lives 500 meters from the door of the headquarters. Like, he is very, very much more entrenched in the church, and he's that involved at this point, and has been given a variety of awards within the church that aren't necessarily real. But he's sort of like, I don't know, he's the face of the church, he's the leader of the church, he's the person that brings people in. I mean, he's sort of everything.
Since his divorce with Katie Holmes, he hasn't shown the world any of his girlfriends or has failed to find another fulfilling relationship. He seems married to his work and is mostly focused on his legacy as an actor and producer.
I did speak with him about the time of the latest Mission Impossible. And he says that he's going to continue on this path. And he says, I will still be doing stunts. If I have to be in a wheelchair when I'm 90 years old, I'm going to be doing my own stunts. So I think that he very much intends to keep this up. Physically, can he? Because, he's almost a 60-year-old man at this point, and so that isn't easy to jump from building to building and hang out of helicopters.
Ever since the audience discovered his darker side, Tom Cruise has managed to stay relevant and incredibly successful. No one has forgotten his antics about Scientology or about his thoughts on psychiatry, but somehow people are willing to separate the actor from the man. His personal life is as chaotic as his professional life is steady. He will soon be an action hero in his 60s, and his career seems far from over. Maybe the last chapter of his filmography will see him settle down to more grounded dramas. And who knows, maybe one day he will turn his back to the Church of Scientology. Both scenarios seem unlikely, but Tom Cruise is used to surprising his audiences.